Hey guys, I'm going to be doing something completely different today than what I'm normally used to. Obviously, usually on my channel, you guys will come here and you'll see me like have a bunch of videos of me playing games, and I don't think I've recorded an actual like voiceover or like some type of question thing in like almost 2 years now. I remember making a video back in like, I think it was July 2017 or something like that, so it's pretty cool to come here. So basically what I'm going to start doing is about once a week or so, depending on how many questions I do get, I'm going to basically be doing like a question and answer thing where you guys basically ask questions, I answer it. Preferably you join my Discord or ask in my stream, and then we kind of consolidate it down to a few questions and kind of go through there. One thing I really want to start doing with my YouTube channel is give a little bit, I guess, give back a little bit more. As much as I love just having videos posted on there, my editor Noctu's been doing a great job. I would love to kind of add some more personality to it and give you guys more than just what it is. I just don't want it to be kind of like a generic YouTube channel. I want it to be more than that. So what I'll do is I'll basically take about 5-6 questions depending on how long I can answer them, and then we'll go from there, and we'll see how it goes. And if this is a little bit scuffed from my first video, I'm sorry. I just trying really hard to get used to doing this, and I'm excited though. Definitely excited. So the first question I have was, if I have a consistent 144 FPS, but only a 60 Hz monitor, is it actually worth upgrading? Does it actually increase how well you play? Well, this is kind of something I get asked a lot, and I think is asked to a lot of streamers. I don't normally recommend that people change a bunch of stuff with their setup. I personally have some of the weirdest controls you'll ever see. For example, I play with arrow keys. I have a hard pad. I have a Zowie FK2, which not a lot of people use in general. But the one thing I do recommend is if you're able to upgrade to 60 to 144, 60 to 240, I always recommend that. One of the biggest changes in play I had personally was when I went from 60 to 120, back when 120 Hz were like the monitors you would upgrade to before 144s and 240s. I've actually seen examples of players doing this. For example, some of you guys might know Sinatra. We picked up Sinatra on Selfless back in 2017, and he was really good, but he also played on a 60 Hz monitor and a computer that couldn't handle it that well, right? So when he got the computer, he went from being like a fringe top 500 player to literally hitting rank 1 that same season, because he was able to it was just better than 60 Hz, right? Now let me give you an example though. Say you have a computer that can only get 60 FPS, then getting a 120 Hz monitor probably isn't your best bet yet, right? Obviously you're gonna need a computer to run it. You're gonna need these type of things that make it viable to run. For example, I have a 240 Hz monitor and I have 240 FPS, so I can feel the effects of the 240 Hz, right? But if I get 220 FPS, it's still better than having the 144. So, it's definitely worth the upgrade if you're able to do it. Obviously, don't go and get it if you can't hit 120 FPS, 144 FPS, 240 FPS, but it's by far one of the biggest things I would recommend upgrading. Obviously, you can do small tweaks like, getting like a better mouse, better keyboard, mouse pad, desk, stuff like that. But I always recommend 60 to 120, 60 to 144, or 60 to 240 if you can. 100%, always will. For the second question we have, which maps are good with niche heroes that aren't necessarily meta but still really viable? That's actually a pretty good question. I think that most maps have niche heroes that are good. The problem is actually playing it right. So for example, it can be super viable to play Orisa Hog on first point defense Junkertown if the other team is playing a certain comp. The problem is most people don't play it correctly. For example, timing your pulls as Orisa Hog sounds super simple, but the amount of people that do it correctly is insanely little. Another good example of a map where you can use Orisa is first point Lunar Colony. Because of the distance to the point and awkward angles, if done correctly, you can use Orisa Bastion very effectively. Now, of course, this requires you to also have good communication. You say, why would you need good communication? For example, if one player goes Sombra Hammond and touches the point, who is dropping, right? A lot of the times you'll see people play Lunar Colony and you're sitting up top the whole time and everything's going well. Then they switch to to Hammond and Sombra, and you're like, oh, okay, nothing's really changed here. Then Sombra touches point. Well, what happens? Out of nowhere, your Ana drops down a point because nobody's contested. Now, first of all, I want to say this. It's okay to give a tick. One of the biggest strengths of Overwatch is you can retake and overall win the whole war rather than just the battle, right? So a lot of people will panic and go to the point. So if you communicate, hey, listen, as D.Va, I'm gonna drop to point if Sombra's there. Now you may say, hey, I also need some assistance with healing because a Sombra may do a lot of damage to me and I don't want to be demeched. So that's a big part of where communication can be key. Another thing that can happen with Hammond is that Hammond can actually flank around and boot people off the high ground of Lunar Colony, right? And a lot of people don't communicate that. So if you go, hey, Orisa, be careful. I just want you to know that there's a ball that's gonna be coming behind you. I'll call when. So you go, ball coming, Orisa can then use Fortify, and the next thing you know, Hammond uses the cooldowns, nobody gets knocked down, and you're pretty much good to go, rinse and repeat, and it's really hard for them to be able to do that. But that requires really good communication, and I think a lot of people still are kind of in that weird spot about what is good communication and what isn't. Coming from somebody who pretty much communicates everything, you don't have to do that, but simple communications like who's gonna touch point, who's gonna call the wrecking ball, who's gonna watch for the wrecking ball, you know, when you're on attack of like Dorado, for example, and this kind of went off question a little bit, but I wanted to talk about this while we're here anyway. On attack Dorado, like who's gonna stay on the cart in overtime so you don't C9? And obviously, if anybody doesn't know what C9 means, it means you get off the cart when you shouldn't get off the cart and you lose just naturally. Like they don't even force the loss, you pretty much lose on your own. So I would say that to the initial question, there's a lot of niche heroes on each map. It's really about playing them correctly, right? The reason why they're niche heroes is because they're strong at certain points, but just because you know, you run Orisa Hog doesn't mean you're going to run Orisa Hog effectively, and then people kind of lose faith in the strats themselves. But there's a reason why some maps have certain heroes here and there. Another example of like a niche hero. Now let's pretend I call Widow niche here. Widow's a really good hero to have, but for example, if teams are running goats, you can still dominate as Widow on second point Dorado, and you go, well, why? Because there's so much distance between the map that Widowmaker is able to basically stay so far away and pretty much frag. I'm not a good Widow, and even I've had good moments on Dorado, so that's how I believe that while some heroes may not be like viable to the meta, there still are areas where you can play these heroes. That doesn't mean play Widow on first point Dorado if you can't get that space with goats and stuff like that, but yeah, that's pretty much what I would have to say on that whole subject, and hopefully there's some information in there that you can kind of learn from, because I think a lot of people don't really take that stuff into account. The next question is, what would your ideal ranked meta be in Overwatch? This can be a bit of a controversial one because people want to see different things when it comes to the ideal ranked meta. The most important part to me when it comes to ranked meta is actually seeing some type of structure. The major problem with Overwatch, and I've talked about this a lot in my stream, is that the game is designed to be a team game, right? It was never designed to be an individual, like one player, you know, goes out and carries every game. It's also one of the reasons why it can be super frustrating with Overwatch, because you're not able to have that hard carry potential. Obviously, there's maps where you can play it, like you can pop off in Widow, you can hit a good pulse bomb, but it's not consistent, right? And I think one of the things about Overwatch, and I'm sure some of you will be able to relate to this, and I think Seagull talked about it before, when you lose an Overwatch, it feels awful. And when you win, it doesn't feel as good as how bad you feel when you lose. And a lot of that has to do with the fact that the game doesn't line up correctly, right? You have players who just refuse to work as a team, and you lose that team aspect. So when you play against somebody or a team of people that are absolutely annihilating as a team, they're having a great time while you're losing, getting destroyed because you're not working as a team. You're too busy blaming everybody, when in reality, some of the times it's just simple as teamwork, right? Because the game is revolved around teamwork. My Zarya bubble, my secondary Zarya bubble, right, isn't designed to do nothing with, right? I use that bubble to efficiently protect my teammates, build energy, do these things that can win team fights, right? Not just for my individual like gameplay. When I use Defense Matrix, I should be using it to protect my teammates, not just right-clicking myself because I try to take a 1v1 solo battle off in the middle of nowhere, right? The game is such a big team game. So let me give you an example of why Overwatch can feel weird, right? Out of nowhere, you have 6 support mains in your team. Literally 6 support mains. You have 6 solo queues. Now, great, you have six support players, awesome, right? You know, you guys want to try. So you have 1 support player go Rhine, you have 1 support player go Zarya, the 2 support, you can get away with 3 supports, so you have 3 supports, and then you have a Lucio main play Widow. The other team was just randomly given, because it's completely random, it's based off of your SR, 2-2-2. 2-2-2 would be 2 tanks, 2 DPS, and 2 healers. Automatically they have an advantage because they're going to be playing as a team and they're already strong at their roles, right? But because you just randomly got 6 supports, there's nothing you can do except give it your all and maybe win with that teamwork, right? But most players won't use that teamwork because they're too busy complaining about what's going wrong. Hey, Widow, why aren't you DP? Well, everybody on the team plays support. They're not strong at that role. So for example, I personally am good at off tanks, right? Like when I generally climb, my win rates are 55 to 65% depending on the hero, right? But it's off tanks that I generally do well on. If you put me on Mercy, our team better have some Mercy because it's gonna be rough. Because my Mercy is awful, right? So this game has a weird part where it believes that everybody at the same SR should be able to play that class and role effectively no matter what. So if you're a 4400 off-tank player, you should be a 4400 main tank player and DPS player. And some players can do that, right? But not everybody, and especially with how much time people can put into the game, it can vary. So I think it would be really cool if they do add some type of role queue to the game. I also have been kind of an advocate of something that I think League tried and it didn't work, but something that I think would work in Overwatch, because of how the game is, it's a completely different game, you can switch heroes and stuff like that, is if you had like basically a queue with 3 different roles with different SRs, right? So for example, I could queue up as, okay, I'm gonna work on my support today, and I'm platinum support. I'm just not a good support player, and I'm gonna rank up as a support player through plat in a role queue setting. So not only am I playing a role that I'm not good at and I have a separate SR, I'm also able to climb through the ranks and have complete team games because we have like a 2-2-2, right? You've probably seen my interviews in the past with Jeff Kaplan when we talked about that, and he was very, like, you know, excited about that type of idea. So I think that would be really cool to add to the game, and I think that would be more ideal of a meta to me. I don't care about the heroes, right? But if a 2-2-2 is forced, while it can reduce some things like GOATs happening, in long term, I think long term, short term it might feel a little bit weird. Obviously they might have to do like an MMR reset or something like that, but long term, I believe the game would be better off because it would just have more structure. Now let me talk about something else here very quickly, and once again I'm going a little bit off subject, but I guess this is what I do. In my personal opinion, I believe that there still will be toxicity no matter what. Like it's not gonna fix like people being like dicks to you or causing issues, but I do think it will reduce some of it, because some of the most toxicity that I see in this game comes from people expecting people who aren't good at something to be good at something, right? They expect that Lucio main who can't play Lucio to be just good at Zarya. And it's just true that sometimes it doesn't happen, right? So hopefully it can kind of reduce some of that, and when you get that team set, it will kind of make people want to compete in the game more and try their hardest every game, right? Because let's be honest, a lot of us don't give 100% every single game because we get frustrated at the most, like, at little things, right? Like that. Like you just hit P, which P on PC would be able to see your teams. You look at your profiles of your teammates, 4 of them are private, so you can't see them. The other team, you can see their profiles, and you feel like you lost from the get-go, right? So hopefully if they add something like that, it can actually add a little bit more of an ideal experience in ranked, and then things will be a lot better in my opinion. If you don't believe me, you can join, you go to my Discord, we have pugs I think every week. You can go on there and try pugs out and see what I'm talking about with structure. I think Jane runs pugs too, obviously you guys know Jane, and you will see how amazing it can be to play the game where everyone is trying and the structure is super nice. So I do believe that while I didn't give you a direct answer to the ranked ideal meta, I don't care about the ideal heroes in the meta, I care about the structure of the game, and I think with that, the game will be much better. The next question we have is, what is a good way to get over anxiety from speaking in comms? And related to comms, what's some good tips for comms overall? So obviously comms is short for communication, and this is obviously quite the subject because communication, once again, I talked about this a little bit earlier, is one of those things that it's, a lot of people don't know how to use it effectively. Some people think some is too much. Some people think some is too little. Like there's no direct answer like this is perfect. Yeah. There is no direct answer that this is perfect communication. One of the biggest things for me is truly understanding that no matter what, there are gonna be people who don't agree with what you say, give a crap about anything in general, or just aren't nice people. You gotta figure that out. There's just gonna be people in general who just aren't enjoyable to play with, right? But these type of people shouldn't throw off your game. And I mean that, because if you let these people throw off your game, and let's say on average, 1 out of 5 people is just not nice in your game. That means every single game you're gonna get thrown off just because of them. So as much as it can suck to have those people in your game, you just gotta understand that you can focus on the idea that your teammates in general care about winning, right? So I would say the more and more you talk, and you experience those positive results, you'll start to feel comfortable with doing it, and it will feel natural. You won't feel like, oh my God, I'm stressed out about this. As somebody who's grown up with Asperger's, and it took me a long time to realize this, the more and more I do things that I'm uncomfortable with, the more and more I can trick myself into developing a new comfort zone, right? So with me in life, it's all about comfort zones, right? If I don't want to go to the store over and over again, right? It's not a comfort zone. But if I start to go to the store once a day, I start to realize that this area, this store, these stores become a comfort zone to me. There's a place nearby me that I go to occasionally that I'm comfortable at because I made it a comfort zone. I was able to take something that I was naturally nervous about or naturally scared about or have anxiety about, and because I kept doing it, it became a comfort zone. So the same type of thing can happen with ranked, and it can happen with communication, right? Because obviously people have ranked anxiety too. It's not just communication where people have anxiety. People have ranked anxiety, right? They're like, okay, They pump themselves up, they go into ranked, and they get nervous about stuff, right? That's natural, you know, if you feel that way. That I felt that way before in games before too, right? It just took a lot of practice. So just as forehead as this is, and for anybody who doesn't know what forehead is, it's a great emote on Twitch. The more you just do it, you'll start to feel comfortable. And I know that sounds such like a basic response or basic answer, but it's just the truth. The more and more you do things, the more and more naturally you'll be able to develop this sense of like, okay, I can communicate, and even if somebody's not gonna be ideal or respond to me in the correct way, then that's fine. I'm gonna keep doing me. Now, obviously, if your communication is toxic, like, hey, you guys suck, let's do better, there's a good chance that most people won't react to that. Now, while some people can do that, for example, I can handle that, not all people can, right? So you have to kind of choose wisely how you communicate with people, because some people kind of take things the wrong way sometimes, I guess. Like, you could be like, oh crap, I don't think we need a D.Va out there, right? Somebody be like, what do you mean I don't need D.Va out there? Right? Like, probably don't need to put that out there. Yeah, probably didn't need to use the D.Va out there, but what you can do is focus on the next fight and worry about what comes next rather than what just happened. And you can fix those issues like, hey, this time try to wait on D.Va ult, because if you wait a little bit later to say that, they might react better. So rather than being like, hey, shouldn't they use D.Va ult there, what the heck? Next time around, when we get closer to D.Va ult, you can kind of put something in like, hey, this time we'll try to hold D.Va ult, and we'll call when, and they might feel a little bit more inclined to hear that information because it's already past them knowing they made a mistake, and it can make things a lot better, right? Now, obviously, they keep making the same mistakes. It can be frustrating, but that comes with communication and trying to lead games and stuff like that, right? So once again, the only way you can continuously get better at your communication, your anxiety with communication, or just ranked anxiety in general, is just to do it and realize that over time, more than likely, because you'll play a lot of games, you'll develop more comfort levels, and next thing you know, you'll see yourself becoming that next level player you kind of always wanted to be, right? Because all of us want to become better at video games, right? Well, not all of us, but a lot of us like to do good, right? We play video games because it's a good time, and obviously we'd rather win than lose, or give ourselves the best opportunity, and I think that will give us the best opportunity going forward, or, well, you guys, so. The last question is going to be, what is the best way to know how and when a D.Va will DM so Zarya grabs won't get eaten? What? The last question we have here, and this is a question I get asked a lot, is what is the best way to know how to eat a grab as D.Va? When it comes to eat and grabs as D.Va, it really comes down to one simple thing, being able to track ultimates, right? That's the first start. If I know they have grab, already it's way easier for me. Now there's ways you can do it if you really want to. If somebody dies as Zarya, they can see kill cams. I skip kill cams on purpose just because I was a pro player and like I don't like that information, but you can obviously see kill cams and stuff like that. But if you're able to track ultimates and know Zarya has grabs, things get a lot easier, right? This is just for everything in general. As D.Va or as any hero, when you know what they have, the game becomes a lot easier. It just becomes slower, and things, the way you react to things is, like, imagine knowing they have grab and you can react to it. I mean, you can already set yourself up to it, right? Rather than react to it when it happens. When you're able to track an ultimate, it gives you time to be able to set yourself in positions to get the grab. For example, with the current form of DM, it is much better nowadays to hold your DM on them the moment you recognize they have grab and start to make an aggressive play. This is the most basic form of eating grabs that can usually work because you know they have grab, and all you have to do is basically commit your full DM to them, because when they start to get aggressive, they're either gonna grab or they're gonna die, right? There's no in between. So if you're able to just understand that, it's much easier to eat the grabs. Now, obviously, with the new changes to the D.Va, to give you guys an idea, they've reduced the distance on meters, so you have to be a little bit closer to Zarya now, and they also made it so the defense matrix is a lot easier to see. It is still pretty easy to eat grabs. I've been able to eat grabs quite frequently still, and a lot of that reason being is because I still know they have grab. So let me give you an example. I'll be on a second point of Dorado, and I know they have grab. I'm able to play high ground and kind of behind them. So while my defense matrix is really obvious, more often than not, because I'm in a position to eat the grab where they can't see me, they can't see my defense matrix to begin with, right? So if I'm able to time my play correctly, then I'm able to eat the grab really easily, right? Now, obviously, you're not gonna eat every single grab, and it's nearly impossible. You just don't, too many things happen in the game. When you prepare yourself like this, it's so much easier to eat the grab, right? I mean, it's so much easier. My biggest eats on grab are generally ones where I'm on their side where they can't see me, or behind them. And this is still the same with the new defense matrix changes, right? At the very worst, if you commit your defense matrix to them as they're running in and you just don't eat the grab, you still commit more of their cooldowns and you can delay time for your teammates to get the kills. If people blame you for every single game because they get grabs off, they don't really understand how hard it is to eat those grabs. But if you just start to do things like this, where you give yourself the opportunity to understand they have the grab, put yourself in a position to pre-fight, then after that, you're able to do a much better job, right? Obviously, if you're playing goats versus goats, which is 3 tanks, 3 support, like, if you don't eat the grab having that. Generally, your supports will have the Zen ult, and like it's not a big deal. But in other fights, you know, like where it's just Ryan Zarya versus Winston D.Va, and you need to eat the grab, if you positionally put yourself in a better spot, you'll have an easier opportunity to do that. So that is probably my biggest advice for eating grabs from a Zarya. Never will be perfect, but you can definitely put yourself in a better opportunity if you kind of listen to that. So yeah, that's going to be the last question. I want to thank you guys for watching this. I know it can be a little bit different. I know I probably wasn't as perfect as I could be with it, but I really do want to start adding more content like this to the channel. It's something that I really do enjoy doing, and being able to give back and help people get better at games is something I've always loved. It's one of the main reasons why I love streaming, because I get to entertain people, make people happy, allow for them to get better at games, right? And at the very, you know, like I said, at the very worst, at least they get to enjoy themselves, which is really key to me. I'm going to start doing more of these type of question videos too, so if you want to do that, join my Discord. I think I'll put the link below. If you like what you see, you can obviously head over to my Twitch. I'm live pretty much every single day. I stream like 8 to 10 hours a day, depending, which is obviously the same name you see on here, right, with the jersey. Oop, what am I doing? There you go. See? And yeah, join my Discord. Ask the questions on there. We have a channel for it, and go from there. So thank you guys so much for this. I love you guys. To anybody who has not really seen me like this before, because I only watch my YouTube videos and never see my stream, nice to meet you guys, and hopefully we're able to keep doing this. I'll come up with some cool lingo later on where I'm like, thanks for watching, all that stuff, but for now, I'm just glad to get a video done, and I'm super excited to finally do something like this. Love you guys. Hope you guys all have a great day wherever you're from, and thank you so much for just being awesome. Bye-bye.